Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Boardman Black and Gold podcast with Zane and David. Well, we said this was going to happen, and it happened. The Steelers lose, 31-17 to the Baltimore Ravens just yesterday?
34.
Was it 30? Oh, that's right. They kicked a field goal at the end. I forgot about that. That's not a really good showing, I don't feel like. And I think that there's a lot of storylines in this game that we're going to get to talk about this week, but this was obviously the other thing, too, is like we didn't get to watch this game together, so now we're kind of back to what we were doing before. But what were your initial thoughts on the game? I know we were texting back and forth, but what were your initial thoughts?
So, I kind of told you this right before, but I kind of went into it just like expecting a loss, expecting not to really see us be like good, because, Mike Tomlin loves his skids. Like, we just tend to go at some point in the year, we love to just have a stretch where it's like, wow, we're a different team. We are not, I don't know what happened. So I kind of went into it just being like, I'm expecting a loss, so I wasn't super upset. And most of the game, it was looking like that was going to happen. There was some sliver of hope at times, especially in the beginning, and then a little bit in the second half. But, yeah, I guess part of it, too, is I just tried not to be frustrated because I was just like, it's just unfortunate to see that we are still the same team that we've always been with Mike Tomlin, no matter how different it looks. But, yeah, I kind of was trying to hold in my frustration, but definitely still had some. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines. I mean, I was kind of thinking that with the amount of people we had outs, which I didn't even really realize just how many people we had missing in this game. Deshaun Elliott being out was not good. Pickens we knew was probably going to be out. I'm trying to think of who else was out.
Porter ended up going.
Yeah, you're right, Porter. And even like Ben Skoranek early in the game, he had 2 big catches, and then I think it was like a hip injury or something, and he never came back. And then there was one other, who else was out? Justin Fields was out. That wasn't Ogunjobi. Yeah, that was the other one. So having that, I mean, Loudermilk was playing for most of the game, I think, if I remember that correctly. Did they have it's like Mark Robinson was in there too, I think.
There was it was a number 94. I honestly did not know who it was.
They had some 83 in there too. I don't know if you saw that. I didn't know who that was either.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was kind of just this ragtag bunch of guys. But even going back to what you were talking about last week, obviously missing Pickens against the Eagles was not ideal, but I feel like we still have enough star power in places that even if we're missing a couple of guys, because in all honesty, like in the NFL, being healthy is a luxury. It's sometimes not about like who has the best team, it's about who has the healthiest team. And we've been very blessed to not have the injury bug for most of the season. And then now when we have it, it's like, we're just so incapable, it feels like. And they, like you said, they hung around for a good bit of the game, but it just wore down on us throughout the second half especially. And then that was when it all kind of went downhill. I guess, we thought, would you say this? I'll ask you this. Did you think our depth was better than in years past this year?
I did. If we're talking since COVID, I think this is one of our, offensively speaking, best depth years, especially at wide receiver, especially at, running back and tight end and our skill positions. I think we had great depth, and I think this is the problem. A lot of people will say, and I'm tempted to say this, is without George Pickens, we literally have nobody. We have nobody to throw to. And what I have to say is that's just simply not true. Van Jefferson has always, in his career, shown to be a solid number 3, sometimes number 2 receiver. Mike Williams was an amazing number 2 receiver with the Chargers and still has that capability. Like what you said, Ben Skoranek played really well, and I've loved this guy ever since the first day we got him. Calvin Austin, when you throw him the ball, has made some spectacular plays. 2 great plays in this game. And so I think that the we don't have depth besides George Pickens, we can't do anything without George Pickens is false. The problem is that when you give guys 2 targets an entire game, of course they're not going to do anything. Tyreek Hill won't do anything if you give him 2 targets. That's the biggest issue is, for some reason, Arthur Smith and just our offenses in general have these guys, and we're like, but let's never throw them the ball. Let's never use the formations where they're actually on the field. Like, why are we using formations where Scotty Miller is the only wide receiver in there? That's just ignorant. That's just dumb. Put in your best players. Like, it just confuses me that we refuse to have our best players on the field. And then when they are, 90% of the time, we refuse to actually throw them the ball. So, like, people saying, like, oh, well, George Pickens is in there, so you guys don't really have anybody. It's not true. It's just that we choose not to give it to anybody else and choose not. Like, we're throwing out Washington. We don't throw it to him anymore. We're throwing it to Michael Pruitt, who, like, that was the guy's, like, second or third catch all year. And it was a great catch. But it's just this team is so mismanaged when it's coaching about, like, I don't understand. Like, if I was the guy and they were like, this is your lineup, and I was like, these are my best 3 wide receivers. Okay, unless they're tired, they're going to be in every single play and every single formation. But for some reason, Arthur Smith, and like in the past, is like, oh, well, let me take my 5th guy and my 6th guy, and let me keep them kind of up top, so I'll save my best receivers. What on earth? I just don't understand what's going through the mind. Especially, even like, we barely ran Najee, which, like, sure, he did have that 1 fumble, so maybe it was because of that. But, like, still. And, like, Jaylen Warren was still, I think, underused. So I don't understand why it seems that almost every single player on our offense is underused. Like, explain that to me, how we can watch an offense and there isn't a player that we don't think is being, like, overused and that they're being underused.
Well, and I'm thinking of, like, Pat Freiermuth. I don't think he got his first target until late in the second quarter, I feel like. And especially with the amount of money that you committed to him, like, why don't we throw his way 8 times a game or something like that? I feel like there was a lot of times, like, we were talking about it last week with Brady. It seems like he like, on the touchdown when he circled Pat Freiermuth, he knew that was the best place to go with the football. And there was a lot of times, because I was watching Freiermuth a good bit of the game, he would line up right on the outside of the line, he would go a little rub route, and then go into the middle, and he's there. He's available for the taking. But again, you mentioned it last week. I don't know if just Russ doesn't like throwing to him or for whatever reason. And I heard this somewhere this week that Russ historically has never really thrown to his tight ends a whole lot, which maybe is the reason that he is throwing to 5 or 6 different wide receivers all the time, and he's not, like, targeting Freiermuth. But like you said, like, we just committed $12 million a year to this guy for 4 years. Why don't we throw his way? Why don't we get him more involved? Is it because we're living in our fears of, oh, well, he's our best player, so they're going to cover him more than they're going to cover other players? I mean, if he's your best player, why don't you just throw him the ball? I mean, it's even same with Pickens. I feel like even when he is in the game, sometimes we just don't throw his way nearly enough during these games, I feel like. I mean, does that make sense?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. And I think that's, like you pointed out perfectly, it's the biggest problem is, like, we're almost overthinking. And it's like, oh, well, they're going to be after our best players. We got to go to our other guys. It's like, no, you go with your best player until they prove that they can stop them. And then it's like, oh, then they focus on him, then all the other guys are open. That's how it works. You don't start with your small guys, because guess what? The small guys are going to be covered. Fine. But when you go to your big target and you make him a problem, then he's the focus and the other guys get open. And
right.
That's like, I think it's something that a lot of people don't do, and I don't understand. Like, we were talking before, I'm an Ohio State fan. They won huge last night, and that was something that me and my dad noticed, which was different, was it seemed that Jeremiah Smith, who is like our stud, true freshman wide receiver, it seemed that they were targeting him less in the past few games, and it didn't make sense. Because it's like, if he's your best player, you go to him until they prove they can stop him. And that was what changed in this game, was like, we went to him a lot. And obviously it worked a lot. And so it's like, as an offensive coordinator or as a team, you should game plan 8 to 10 plays where it's like, this play is for you. Like, you should have 8 to 10 plays. George Pickens or even when he's hurt, Calvin Austin or Mike Williams, this play is for you. Pat Fryermuth, we have 8 to 10 plays where it's for you. And, like, I think that we lose sight of that, and we're just like, oh, let's just try and use that. I don't understand. It's almost like he's has a high school offense, and he's like, I just want to get everybody in. I just want to get everybody reps and get everybody targeted. It's like, no, go coach college or high school when that's a thing and that's like something that's honorable. This is the NFL. Like, you put in your best players and you give the ball to them, period. Like we just talked, we're recording on Sunday. Saquon Barkley has 121 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first half. Right. Like, they go to him until they stop him. And it's like, how, like, can we not see that that's what's working in this league? Like, it just, and that's how it's always been, is you go to your guys that are the best. It blows my mind.
And if you never go to them, you'll never know if it actually works. Like, how will we ever know if Pat Fryermuth is working if we never throw to him, especially early on in the game? I feel like that's especially why these teams with good offenses work so well. It's because they have this flow. They throw to their best guys early in the game. They go to their best guys early in the game. And then when they start to get covered, then they start to throw to their secondary guys. And then naturally, that opens up their best guys in the later parts of the game, the most critical parts of the game especially. So, and it seems like we just do it so completely backwards to where we throw to these like lesser known guys and we hope that we get to a point in the game where we can throw to our big boys. But then the problem is when we throw to those big boys later in the game, like they're covered, they're blanketed and stuff like that, and maybe they're not. And if we're throwing them to them that late in the game, maybe it's just too late at that point. So it seems like we're just working backwards. And I feel like, I mean, Arthur Smith, I think, has done a good job overall this year. We don't have the anemic offense that we've had from years past, but it's games like this week and it's games like last week against the Eagles that really make you wonder, like, in these really important, critical games, how well are we really made out for when we don't have one of our best weapons? And we still have plenty of weapons, I feel like. Like you said, I think Calvin Austin is incredible, and I think he's even starting to get a little bit of rapport from around the league. And I really just hope that they figure that out and they just keep going his way. Because especially on our team, when we don't have a lot of guys that are getting open against these good defenses, it seems like Calvin Austin is getting open. Except for that very long play on that 4th down late in the game, which that was the only time that he really wasn't open. And it was just good. It was good defense on that play. So that was about it. Now, I do want to – so we haven't really talked much about the game itself yet. Is there anything that you kind of want to start with in terms of the game? Because I think there was a lot in terms of how the game actually flowed out that is like very worthy talking points.
So, I mean, yeah, definitely. I think the first quarter, I'm pretty sure all of these plays were in the first quarter, and all of them were game-changing. I'm sure that the 2 early fumbles, the first drive that the Ravens had, they were driving down the field, looked like they were going to score a touchdown. Well, I think they got a field, or they may have actually. No, they punted, yeah. And Highsmith, got the sack, got the fumble, and we couldn't get on it. That's huge. It's like, so awesome we got a sack, we made him punt. But if we could get on that ball, that's momentum changing. That's awesome. And then once again though, like we were in a 3rd and 2, and our offense couldn't get the first down. And then we had to punt it back, and then they fumbled it again. We forced another fumble on the punt. But then we couldn't get on it once again. And so it's like those 2 plays are just huge missed opportunities. Because I think if we had gotten out to a hotter start, it would have been a lot better. And then I think the play that changed the game and really just set things in motion and where the rest of this game was going to go was when it was 7-7. We're driving with the football. It's a great-looking drive. Russell Wilson takes off. There's nobody in sight. And he's like 3 yards from the end zone. And, he gets hit, fumbles the ball. And, of course, we lose that fumble. And that was very frustrating because, one, I honestly, like, last game and this game and in other times, but I'm starting to cool on Russ. I think that he's not making, like, I think maybe his pride's coming back where he's starting to think, I can make all these plays. Like, he probably should have slid down. You're not 24 anymore. He probably should have slid down. And, like, some of his throws, like, he's double clutching, where it's like, just throw the ball where the play's intended it to go versus trying to make a play happen, which he's doing a lot more of. But that play, I mean, he goes down or holds on to that ball, we're going to get in the end zone. It's 14-7 versus then the Ravens go down and score over 14-7. And so I think that was game-changing. Those were, in my opinion, like the biggest plays of the first half, and what kind of, because we were down, I think, 17-10 at the end of the first half. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, what were your thoughts on the first half?
Well, that fumble obviously I think that was the difference in the game, because you figure it out. That's a 14-point swing. The way that they were moving the ball on that specific drive, they were going to get into the end zone if they're down to the 5-yard line there. I mean, they were running well. Najee was running well. Warren was running well. They were connecting with every single one of their passes. That was honestly the best drive that we've seen in several weeks, probably since that Bengals game, honestly. I mean, it feels like that was how fluid it was, and they were connecting all those passes. And again, it just seems like there's times when I feel like Russ has like an anti-veteran move, where it's like you would expect a veteran move from a 36-year-old guy to be like, okay, let me just slide down here. Let me take my medicine. I've already ran for 25 yards. Like, let's not try to bite off more than I can chew here. And on that play specifically, he cut it back to the left towards the inside. If he would have cut it outside, it was a touchdown, because he could have dove in for the touchdown at that point. But the fact that he just tried to bite off more than he could chew, and that ended up costing them. Now, at the same time, the defense did give up a 95-yard touchdown drive immediately after that, too. And I think that was also a big swing in the game, because it's like Derrick Henry was running for 10 yards a carry. It was like they're running with him on first down, he'd get a first down. They'd run with him again, and he'd get another first down. Like, we could not stop Derrick Henry all game long. And that was that point in the game where I said to myself, we can't win this game because we can't stop Derrick Henry. And it was the same type of deal from the Eagles game, is where we just didn't tackle. We just did not put a helmet on a helmet, and we did not tackle. And that was quite frustrating. Several times he gets hit, for a yard or behind the line even, and he runs off for another 10, 15 yards.
Yeah, and I think that's, our offense is struggling, but our defense is equally struggling, especially in the run game. I know we've played the best 2 running backs in the league the past 2 weeks, but even before that, like Jerome Ford had a lot of great runs against us. Tyrone Tracy, who's having a decent rookie year, went off against us. I think that we've always kind of been a little suspect. Our defense is suspect as a whole, because Lamar Jackson had his best game against us. And the interception that he did throw looked like a breakdown in the scheme. So it wasn't like it wasn't where a defense made a play.
Well, you're talking about the Minka interception, right?
Yes, which finally he got a pick.
He did. He did get a pick in the big 2024. Now, here's what I have to say about that. So, okay, I'm trying to remember exactly what happened before that. So, did we punt and then Henry ran for 50 yards? Is that what happened? Am I remembering that correctly?
I think that was when we went for it on 4th and 8.
There you go. Okay.
They were driving down.
Okay. This is what I want to talk about, because aside from the Russ fumble, this was the difference in the game. I think at that point there was maybe 3 minutes left in the third quarter. It was not the fourth quarter yet by that point, I don't believe. Yeah. So here's my question. We're at like the 50-yard line. It was 4th and 6, I believe. Was 4th and 6. And why do we go for it there? That was my question. Why do we go for it there when we're only down 7? You can pin them back. You can force them to go the length of the field. But instead, you go for it there. And it wasn't even like the play design was to just get a first down. The play design was to get a touchdown, because they threw it way over the middle to Calvin Austin, and he was blanketed. It was the only time really all game that he was covered well. And they break it up. And then the Ravens get the ball like right around the 45-yard line or something like that. Why is it then that we go for it? And last week against the Eagles, when we're down 2 scores, with 10 minutes left, we punt it. That is what just completely baffles me. That specific play, what did you think about that play, and what was your mindset into that play?
Oh, well, when we lined up, because I think what had happened was if I'm correct, we lined up like we were going to do it, and then the third quarter ended. And
yeah.
we were like, okay, good, they're punting, like, whatever. And then we see the offense back out there, and we come back, and me and my dad are just like, we were like, what is going on? It's just proof that Mike Tomlin doesn't know what he's doing, and he's just trying to guess. Like, he's just trying to say, well, last week when it was fourth and like this, around this side of the ball, it didn't work, so I must do it. He has no feel for the game at all. These are two, like, to him, for some reason, I mean, it's not for some reason. Yes, you're late in the game, you're losing, and you're near the same point in the field. But these are two completely different games in two completely different situations. And he just, like, he's so blind to the feel of the game. And it's just he's just proving himself. Like, you know, when people say that, like, you know, there's some Tomlin haters, there's some Tomlin lovers. When people love on Tomlin, like, Tomlin continues to prove me right. Like, as much as I don't want him to, because I would much rather we win the game and then me eat my words, but he continues to prove right by not making right decisions, by just, oh my goodness, by these malfunctions that our team has. I think, like, it's wild to me that everyone agreed to go for it there, and that everyone thought that was the smart idea. When, I mean, yes, our defense didn't look good and they were running it all over the place, but if you get them inside the 10-yard line or the 15-yard line, so much different than them having a 50-yard field.
Right, exactly what you just said. And again, it was not a 2-score game. They were only down 7, and it's like, okay, if you trust your defense here, then just punt it away. Let them have a long field. And if they go down and earn a touchdown, then that's on them. Now, what happened immediately after was Derrick Henry ran for like 50 yards. And at that point, it's like, okay, the game's over. And then, here's the crazy thing, is I had this epiphany. The very next play was that Minka interception.
Yeah.
Explain to me why John Harbaugh is running on first down in the red zone after you just got a 50-yard run from your stud running back. Even if he's not on the field, give it to somebody else. I don't care who it is. I don't care if, like, Mark Andrews lines up at like fullback and runs the football. Like, why are they throwing the ball on first down in the red zone after they just ran and they proved that they were running the whole game? I think Derrick Henry had like 160 yards in the game. Like, why on earth did they throw that ball? And it's like, okay, Minka, for the first time in a million years, he finally shows up, and it's like, oh my gosh, the Ravens are handing us this game. It's like, I was thinking to myself, John Harbaugh, he out Mike Tomlin. And I was getting excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, the Ravens are going to do it again. Lamar, he's going to do it again. And then immediately after, Russ just stares down Michael Pruitt, staring him down the entire time. Marlon Humphrey jumps the route, pick 6, and then that's the game. So, like, how on earth did we go from the highest of highs, getting a Minka interception, and then it just all, like, goes completely backward within maybe a 2-minute span?
Well, I mean, you know, a Minka Fitzpatrick interception used to mean so much. Like, that genuinely was game-changing when he would get a pick. And it was like, oh my goodness, like, momentum's with us. And I don't know if they've just lost that. But, yeah, I mean, that entire play from Russ was so bad. I mean, just, one, Michael Pruitt, if he puts the ball right, that's a good – Michael Pruitt was kind of open. He had the outside of the field. But he throws it. It literally hit the chest of Marlon Humphreys. Like, that was horrible. Like, horrible. And, you know, I got on Jameis Winston for this when we played him the last time. But Russell Wilson, like, after, when he fell down to the ground, was obviously trying to, like, flail around for roughing the passer. And I hate that. I hate it when anybody does that, even if you're on my team or not. Like, oh, it just makes me sick. But another thing that made me sick, kind of going away from the game here, because for a fact, yes, that threw the game away. It was over at that point. There was just no point. Like, it was just all momentum. Anything that we had was gone. And I think that we all just kind of lost hope there. But I don't understand, and I know this wouldn't have changed the game, but just from clearly a rules standpoint, how Marlon Humphreys holding the ball back to I think it was Calvin Austin.
Yeah.
Like, it is the only word I tried to stop myself from saying taunting because I wanted to come up with another verb, but there was no other verb to explain that was taunting. And it's ridiculous that, like, Tyreek Hill throws up a peace sign, which means, I don't know, love and peace. It means peace. Like, it's like, oh, we're cool. But Marlon Humphreys can pretend like Calvin Austin's a child and put that in his face as he scores it for a touchdown, and nothing happens. I just was mind blown. Like, I saw that and was like, well, at least there'll be a penalty because that was garbage. And there was no penalty, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was stupid. And if George Pickens would have done that, then he would have gotten fined like $1 billion too.
No, George Pickens literally just rolled the ball one time near a Bengals guy or something, and they were like, oh, that's 15 yards. But Marlon, I hate the Ravens. They just I hope that we play them in the playoffs first round, because I think that my dad was saying this. I think they're our best bet of who to play, honestly.
Wow.
If we are a wild card team, which I think we're going to be at this point. And I think that out of going somewhere, I would much prefer to go to Baltimore and play versus Kansas City or Buffalo, but I just can't stand them. And the fact that they got I can't stand Marlon Humphreys either. For however long he's been in the league, I've just liked him from the single second that he's become a Raven. And he continues to prove me right. He disappeared for a couple of years, and now he's back, and he's so annoying. And I just, it made me, like, first off, I was already just annoyed and frustrated that we gave the game away. And then I was like, and we're not even going to have justice for whatever the heck that crap was. I just was, and then after that, it was over. There was no point. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, and then there was a play that happened a little bit later, which was the play that I was kind of hinting at in a little bit of error just a minute ago. We were, again, around midfield. I think it was like maybe 10-ish minutes left in the game, something like that. And we throw a screenplay on 3rd and 11, and we get a yard. And I'm thinking, well, that wasn't really setting up anything. And again, now, okay, wee-oo, all the alarms going off. This is the exact same situation that you were in just a week ago in Philly, where you're down 2 scores, you're around midfield, and you need to score a touchdown to have any other shot in this game. It was the game on the line, and Mike Tomlin decides to punt. I don't care if it was 4th and 10. That was him saying, okay, we're done with this game. We're not even going to try. Just like you said last week, they punted the game away. And like you said, it wasn't the same when we went for it on 4th and 6, but it was the exact same as the Eagles week, and he did not learn from it. He did not change anything. And my dad said it, and I think I completely agree with him. He said, we are living in our fears, which, if you are an astute Steelers fan, you would know that is a Tomlinism. We do not live in our fears. Mike Tomlin has quotes around that. He's got his trademark next to it. We do not live in our fears. I don't know what is living in your fears more than punting down 2 scores when you are playing against 1A and 1B in terms of the best running teams in the NFL, in the Eagles and the Ravens. There's nothing more living in your fears than punting games away when realistically, maybe not like ideally, but you still have an outside shot at the game. If you have an outside shot at the game and you punt it away, then that is completely living in your fears.
Yeah, and it seems like our offense has reverted back to don't lose the game. It is not, let's go win the game, let's go get points right now.
It's like you already lost the game 5 minutes ago. You better go back and try to win it, right?
Yeah. And I feel like it's just, I feel like that's where we lived for like 2 years in 2022 and 2023, where our offense was just like, don't make mistakes. Just don't make mistakes. Let our defense bail us out or whatever. And I feel like we're almost going back to that, which is just, it is horrible to the eyes. And and like, again, I had already given up at that point, so I didn't even like comprehend that once again he's punting. But like, why am I watching you? Like, why am I watching a team that won't even play the full 60 minutes? it's just it's gut wrenching to watch that and just be like, why do I feel like I care more than you do? Like it's so upsetting, and I honestly think we haven't seen the worst of it, and I think that I think we're heading right towards a collapse. I think that we're about to fall apart, and I think we're going to be 10. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we're 10-7 again. Maybe we'll be 11-6, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're 10-7.
Okay. Well, is that enough of our talk on this Ravens game? Are we content to kind of move on from now?
I think I am. If you are, I don't know if I have any more points.
I think that's about all I wanted to say. Specifically, the thing I wanted to say at the end was the living in your fears thing, because it couldn't have been more of a carbon copy of what happened in Philadelphia. So I don't know what more you could say. But with that aside, now we have 2 weeks left. And it's not even 2 weeks, because on a normal week, we would have 4 days off, or what is that? Monday. So if we played on a Sunday, and then we had a Thursday night game, we would have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all day Thursday to figure things out. Now instead, we have Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and then no part of Wednesday to get this stuff ready for Christmas against a team that just still is winning games for no reason of their own doing, it feels like. Again, I don't know if you watched any of the Texans game yesterday. I didn't watch much of it. But I see on Twitter and all this type of stuff is that, again, the refs they help the Chiefs all the time. And how the heck are we supposed to beat ourselves, the Chiefs, and the refs, So that's the state of the Steelers, and we have 3 days to figure it out. And it just does not look very good from here.
Yeah. Well, and we're talking about how the NFL's got a script and they got to play by it. And I was just like, no. Because if I buy into the fact that there's a script, it's like I would not watch football at all, because it's just pointless. But that kind of stuff just makes you think oh man, maybe they don't have a script, but they definitely have a phone that goes direct to the ear of the refs. And they definitely, and it's so frustrating because it seems to never go in our favor. And it's just, yeah, I think that my dad was saying that same thing. Obviously, it's a very short week, and he was like, I'm almost ready to give them a pass for next week because it's a short week. And my response to that was I'm not, because you want to know why? You just got the bricks blown off you by your rival Ravens. Anybody can show up and do that and show up another week and get whooped again. Maybe if you had game planned and looked pristine and ready to go this week, I would have been all right, next week I'll give you a pass because you obviously worked this week. But it didn't look like they worked at all. So it's I'm sorry, but I'm not going to give you a pass for having a short week when for a full week it didn't look like you did anything to fix any of the problems from last week.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if the Steelers were trending in the right direction, if these are even close losses to the Eagles and the Ravens, even if they did lose both of them, I think we would be saying, okay, we have at least a little bit of optimism. But they lost by 2-3 scores to both of these teams, and they don't look good. They look dysfunctional. I think that was the word that you used just a minute ago. That's a great word for it. They look like they're out of sorts. And against a team like the Chiefs that is well coached and that has talents just about everywhere, and that they have a defense that just continues to get the benefits of every single little bounce of the football. This week is a losing week. I don't know how much you could look into this and say, can you look me in the eyes and say that the Steelers are going to win? Is there a single soul out there that is betting Steelers money line this week? Because I can't imagine that there is.
No, there's no way. And man, I've been saying since the summer that we were going to win this game, and I want to hold true to that, but it's I just don't know how we could. And especially, with the luck the Chiefs have been getting, and also the Chiefs are still a pretty solid team, more solid than us. And even though they're coming to play us, they have the same short week, so you could argue that. But yeah, I don't think anyone's betting on the Steelers. And I think that I just don't understand. I don't know. Mike Tomlin has brought in the standard is the standard. And I don't know about you, but my feeling is that his standard is way lower than my standard. And I think that a lot of Steelers fans would agree that. And I think that every other coach, any other successful coach in the league would be like, here's their standard, and there's Mike Tomlin's. Like, I just think that, like, I don't understand how you could be so mediocre. No, I'm sorry. Below average. You're below average. You may your records may be a little over average, but you're below average. And so I think that it just boggles my mind at how, like, you have all these people, all these other coaches, all these other players that, like, man, are shooting for the stars, trying to win it all, like, going for their best, performing their best, coaching the best that they can so their players can do the best. And we're stuck with this guy who's like, don't blink, cut your eyelids open. Like, oh my goodness. Like, thanks for saying that for the 10th straight year. And that obviously hasn't affected anything. And so it's disappointing that this is where we are. And, like, you know, I would love to wake up one morning and just be like, you know, ESPN, Mike Tomlin fired. But I know that this is going to be for the rest of our lives until he retires. This is where he's going to be. And it's just sad to see that, like, this is the state of the Steelers we're just not good. Like, we're not good. Like, oh, man, Bill Cowher and Chuck Noll could always be the best teams. They could compete. Mike Tomlin's teams cannot compete with the best teams in the league.
Yeah, you're right. And these last 2 weeks displayed that entirely. And even if they win this week against the Chiefs, again, how worth it really is that? Again, it's a short week. Who knows if Patrick Mahomes is going to play? Like, if I'm Andy Reid, I'm chucking Carson Wentz out there and I'm saying, hey, go for it, buddy, and, like, figure it out. And honestly, they'd probably still win. I think you said that 2 weeks ago. Like, if the Chiefs played Carson Wentz against us, they'd probably still win. And I completely agree with that. So if it just doesn't, it does not bode well for the rest of this season. Now, here's the deal. We are still atop the AFC North. If you can believe that or not. Because we own the better conference record over the Ravens. And again, the Ravens are going to have to play the Texans. So if the Ravens lose that game, then no matter what happens this week, it just won't matter. And then that final week 18 is going to determine who wins the AFC North. The other part of it, too, is that even if the Steelers lose out, if one of I think I have this math right. If the Steelers lose out, or no, okay, here's the scenario. If the Ravens win out and we lose one of the next two games, then we would be like the 5 seed. We would not be the 6 or 7 seed. We would still get the top wild card spot, and we would play the Texans in Houston, which I feel like is a fairly favorable matchup if there was anything that I could choose. I'm not as afraid of the Texans, especially now. I think Tank Dell was the one that he got hurt just yesterday. He's going to be out for the season. It seems like they're just dropping like flies right now. So honestly, if our goal is to win a playoff game, I would not be super worried about the possibility of that. But like we've been saying for the last couple of weeks, where is our standard at? Is our standard to just win a playoff game? Or is our standard to actually make some noise in the AFC this year? What's your standard? Because I have an opinion on my standard. What's your standard?
My standard is, my goodness, you play to win the Super Bowl. You play to win, period. Like, that would be my mindset. If I was a head coach, if I went into the season saying maybe we'll win the division, maybe we'll get a playoff win, I would think to myself, why am I even doing this in the first place? You go to win the whole thing. You go into every game thinking that's the most important one, and let's win. Like, I just don't understand that mindset. And, like, oh, by the way, if Mike Tomlin's mindset is like, let's get a playoff win, you're failing. You haven't won a playoff game since 2016. So, and I don't think you're going to win one this year with the way you've been looking, even if we play the Texans, which I agree with. And I know I just said the Ravens, but now that you said it, I agree. Probably the most favorable matchup will be the Texans. I still think we'd somehow screw that up because we got whooped by them last year. And so I think that, my standard is win the Super Bowl. There should be no other standard. Sure, if you're the who's a horrible team? If you're the Patriots or something, it's like, sure, maybe next year it's like let's try and get above 500. It's like, yeah, that's a good mindset for the Patriots because you've been horrible for a few years. You are the Pittsburgh Steelers. You haven't had a losing season since 2003. You're tied for most rings of any organization. Your goal shouldn't be win a playoff game or win the division. It should be and always should be win the Super Bowl.
And especially with the way that they started the season, what were they, 10-3? Was that the best part of their record? Is that right?
10-3.
Yeah. So if you're 10-3 and you're thinking to yourself, man, we just need to we need to find a way to get to that home playoff game. It's like, no, like you can do so much better. And now they're into this point where the home playoff game is not even close to guaranteed at this point. In fact, it's probably less possible than any other situation. They're probably more likely to be the 6th seed than they are to have a home playoff game. So go ahead. You're itching to say something.
What? And this is the whole thing. Like, I was talking like that. We need a home playoff game. And then my dad reminded me, does a home playoff game matter? Yes, it was COVID, but we got whooped by the Browns. In 2017, it ended up being a close game, but we got absolutely run around by Blake Bortles at home. So we lost to the Ravens in 2014 at home, even though we won the division. Does a home playoff game really matter? Does it really matter where we play with Mike Tomlin? So it's like, sure, that sounds great. A home playoff game sounds great. But we've lost 3 of the last 4 home playoff games.
Yeah, that's true. So again, what does it matter? Why does any of this matter? And it goes back to just win the games you can win. And if you're 10-3, then you should be able to win any game that you walk into. Yeah. It goes back again what I said last week about the Eagles. Why don't you just beat the Eagles, for heaven's sakes? And then you don't even have to worry about the Ravens. Like, just win. Just win, baby. Isn't that the saying? Just win, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and like that's a Raiders saying. And like obviously we don't like the Raiders, but the Raiders say just win, baby. The Raiders, their mantra is commitment to excellence. And I'm like, oh, I so wish that we would delete the standard as a standard and put that so there's no excuse. That's the standard. The standard is excellence, and that's a Super Bowl. And our standard is mediocrity. And it's just where's your standard?
Yeah, I mean, my standard, and honestly, coming into this season, I think my standard was, hey, let's just win a playoff game. You know, if we don't get any farther than that, I'm not going to lie. That was my standard, if I'm being honest. But again, why does that have to be the standard? You know, why is my standard so low? Is it because that we've had a history of just underachieving, or you know, you could argue that having all these winning seasons is incredible and overachieving, but if you don't ever win anything, then what does it matter? It just doesn't matter if you don't win meaningful games, you know? And we can't win meaningful games, it seems like. We can beat the Ravens. Oh wait, we just lost to them. So now what do we have to hang our hat on now, right?
Right, and I think that like you said that like you could argue that, you know, all the winning seasons, like it's beneficial. You could go right back and argue that it is not beneficial, because what changes people, what gets like, I'm going to go back to them again. Look at Ohio State. They lost to 7-5 Michigan. Everyone thinks they're done. Then they come out and absolutely roll Tennessee. That loss to Michigan woke them up. And I think that they're like going to be the sleeping giant of this college football playoffs. Losing helps sometimes. Like Dan Campbell's first year, they won like 2 or 3 games. And now look, they went to the NFC Championship last year. They'll probably be there again this year. And so losing wakes people up to the fact that, wait, what I'm doing is not good enough. So when you're going 8-8, 9-8, 10-7 every single year or better, it's like, well, I guess it was good enough. So don't have to change much. But if you had 5 losses even, 5 wins even, or like 3 wins, it's like, well, something's obviously got to change. But I think it's become detrimental, the fact that we haven't had a losing season, because we're now is just like, well, let's not change anything. And it's just it's got us stuck in this purgatory of being right in the middle forever.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I want to share a quick story, and then we'll get to our score predictions. So my sophomore year of high school, we had a juggernaut varsity baseball team. I started all 4 years of high school. I played second base my first 2 years, and then I moved to shortstop when I became an upperclassman. We had a juggernaut my first 2 years of high school. We had one of the best pitching staffs in the state. Our hitting core, 1 through 9, was incredible. We had one of the best teams in the entire state of North Carolina. The problem was we got knocked in the first round of the playoffs every single year for no reason at all. We just got beat by inferior teams. And in my mind, as an underclassman, those losses just burned me to my core. I was not necessarily, I was a good player, but in my underclassmen years, I was not necessarily a star player at that point in my career. But then, after we lost my sophomore year to an inferior team that we should have beaten like 10 times out of 10, I just had this chip on my shoulder. I'm like, I am not going to lose again. I'm sick of losing. I'm not going to lose again. And I'm going off of your point that sometimes losing is healthy. The next year, when I became a junior, I became a team captain. I was the starting shortstop, and I had a lot of responsibility on my plate. Now, the problem was I graduated into one of the better players on the team, but our team as a whole was not nearly as talented as the previous 2 years. And if you would have looked at the rosters from the 2 years between my sophomore and my junior year, you would have been like, well, you missed your window. Like, you had your shot to win your sophomore year, and now like this inferior roster your junior year, like, you know, you're not going to beat these better teams because there's other teams that were a whole lot better than us. What did we do? We won the state championship as when I was a junior, and it was with a far inferior team, and it was with a lot of young guys like me who were on those freshman and sophomore teams that we were sick of losing. There was very few seniors on that winning team, and it's like they were sick of losing because they had lost those previous 2 years, and they're like, we're not going to lose anymore. And so we committed to hard work, we committed to excellence, and we won the state championship kind of as a wild card in my junior year. And wow. It was completely out of nowhere. I mean, even if you would have asked like some of our parents, like even my dad, I think you would say the same thing, is like, that team should not have won the state tournament. The 2 teams before most definitely should have, but they didn't. And that losing elicited these emotions from the players that still played on those upperclassmen teams, and we won it all. So like you said, losing can be beneficial. And it's like if you're hovering around 500 all the time, then you never know what that awful feeling of losing feels like, and you never change.
Yeah, and I love that story. I love just hearing, stuff like that. And it actually, reminds me, the Steelers have a story like in ways like that. In 2004, Ben's rookie year, we were 15-1. We won our divisional playoff game, and then we lost in the championship to the Patriots. And then the next year, 2005, we start 7-2. And then we lose 3 straight, one of whom to the Bengals, who were also really good that year. And it was like, we were a game away from being out of the playoffs. It was literally every week win or die to get to the playoffs. Not even win the division. It was just we have to win so we could be a wild card team. We win out. We go 11-5. We're the 6th seed, which at the time was the lowest wild card spot. So we have 3 away games. We beat the Bengals partly in thanks to their quarterback getting hurt. Then we beat, who probably should have won the Super Bowl that year, the Indianapolis Colts at Indianapolis. Then we go and beat Denver, obviously at Denver. And then we beat the Seahawks and win the Super Bowl. And to your point of what you said, where your team probably shouldn't have won the state championship that year, the 2005 Steelers shouldn't really have won the Super Bowl that year. But guess what? Like, it was the fact that they lost. They lost as 15-1 and didn't win a Super Bowl. They lost 3 in a row and were woken up to the fact that, oh my goodness, we might not even make the playoffs this year. Like, I think that we haven't had a wake-up call, because I think that 2020 could have been our wake-up call. But no, we still won the division and we still got to the playoffs. And that's the problem, is we have not had a wake-up call since maybe then, honestly, because we've been decent. We've been okay. And so I think that I would love a wake-up call. And this could be it. If we go 10-7 and then get absolutely stomped in the playoffs, even if we don't get stomped and we lose. Like, I think that losing the last 4 and then the playoff game would be detrimental. And so, but yeah, I agree. And I love that story because it proves my point. And it's so true that sometimes you need that experience. There's no substitute for experience.
And I'll say this too, because we both share a Penguins fandom. Crosby scored his 600th goal in a blowout 6-1 loss to the Winnipeg Jets, I think it was. And for that to be the scene surrounding Sid's 600th goal, to get absolutely curb stomped at home against a good team, no less. But I think they had lost 4 straight at that point. And it's like, this is really what we're doing right now? Our all-time great player just scored his 600th goal, and we're sitting here losing by 5 goals every single game. And you know what happened? Ever since that game, they've won 8 of their last 12, and they've lost in overtime a couple of times too. And they're right back in it. Like, that was the Penguins' wake-up call, and that happened just a couple of weeks ago. They were like, man, we're sick of losing. We have Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Erik Karlsson, and Chris Letang on our team, and we are sick of losing. What is it going to take for the Steelers to say, we have Cam Hayward, we have TJ Watt, we have these guys on our team that have never won a playoff game? For what reason? For what reason? What is it going to take to wake them up and say, man, maybe we should start winning. Maybe we should start winning these meaningful games. Maybe our standards should be raised up a little bit. What is it going to take to get to that point? And maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. If it doesn't, then that is a national tragedy. That TJ Watt, who's one of the best edge rushers of all time, breaking records season in, season out, probably should have 4 Defensive Player of the Years. He has never won a playoff game. And it's not looking any better it's not looking any more better that he's going to win one anytime soon.
No, and where is the leadership in this team? We obviously see that we don't get leadership from our head coach. So where is the leadership? Like, again, the players in there, where it's like, obviously these can be very detrimental, but sometimes can be beneficial. Like, where is an all players meeting? Like, where is Cam Hayward and TJ Watt, who are like, listen, Cam Hayward especially, I'm almost out the door here. I want to win. I want to get a ring. Like what you said, TJ Watt, I want to just win a dang playoff game. And like, why aren't they like that? Why aren't they stepping up and taking leadership? Now, I think Cam Hayward does. I've always seen him kind of as a leader. But TJ Watt, not really. Like, TJ Watt does his thing. You know, he's supportive. He's a great teammate. But I've never seen him be a leader. And I think it's time where he's got to be like, I've been in the league for 7 years. I've been in the league 7 or 8 years, and I've won nothing. Like, I got all the personal accolades. Like, I want to win a Super Bowl. Let's go. We just need players to understand that. And maybe that's because those guys have never really, the 2020 loss to the Browns was horrible, but they never really lost. They've always been pretty good. So they're like, what's wrong with us? Because they are still winning. And that's the biggest problem. Yeah,
100%. All right, let's go a little quickly here for our Chiefs predictions. We are now tied in our predictions. So this is a huge prediction here. And I don't know if you're going to stick with what you had. And I'm very skeptical as to what you are going to do. Should we flip a coin as to who should go first?
Yes,
okay.
Definitely. I was going to say, I was like, maybe Zane will go first.
Okay, do you have a coin? Because I did not think about this beforehand. Can you find a coin or something to flip?
Let's see. Let me look around here. There's so much. What do I got? Do I got a football maybe? Okay. I could do laces or spaces.
Okay. Do you want me to call it since I'm technically the underdog? I've gotten my way back into it?
Yes, yeah, you can call it.
All right, give me the laces.
Okay, here we go. It is... Oh, it's laces.
Oh, let's go. I will defer to the second half.
Okay,
all
right, here we go. This is tough. This is tough because I really want to say win. Like, I really am I'm sticking to my word. I want to say win. I think there's a chance. But, oh, man. Okay, really quick. When was the last time we lost to the Ravens? Was it?
It was the Mitch Trubisky. That would have been 2022.
Oh, who do we play after that? Because I'm like, that could be a part of it. It's like, what do we do after we lose to the Ravens? Because we obviously don't do much.
Well, I know the stat. I don't want to tell you honestly, because I know actually.
Oh, okay, man.
I'm not gonna be that guy. Both the Ravens and the Steelers have about a 500 winning percentage after a Ravens-Steelers game.
Okay, well, I'm going to go loss. I'm going to say, as much as I want to say win, I have no hope in this team. There is nothing, even if George Pickens, hey, hang on, if George Pickens comes back, maybe, I don't know. But, the Chiefs is unstoppable with all that they're doing. And, yeah, I just don't really think there's, anything that makes me think that we can beat them, honestly. So I'm going to say we lose, 30-20, maybe 30 to I'll go 30-17.
Okay, fair enough. Now here's the thing.
Oh boy.
I was always going to say a win, no matter what you said. I think they're going to win this one, and it goes back to my whole spiel from last week. It's like, the Chiefs have pretty much already locked up what they need to lock up, so, why not the Steelers win this week? Why not give the league a reason to actually watch a Chiefs game? Because everybody's just hoping that the Chiefs lose one time. People aren't going to be watching. Oh, it's on Christmas too. I don't know if we've mentioned that yet, but it's like, it would be a Christmas miracle if the Steelers beat the Chiefs, and not just for Steelers fans. It would be for 90% of America if the Steelers were to beat the Chiefs. So, for that very reason, I'm going to say the Steelers are going to win by a score of 24-23. I think that there's a little bit of heroics involved, maybe a late turnover that turns into points, and maybe finally the refs actually go back on the Chiefs for one time this year. So that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say 24-23, Steelers win.
Interesting. This is very interesting because, we do have Christmas Day luck, we do have Christmas Day momentum, because in 2016 we had the unbelievable classic against the Ravens where we beat them in the division, and then in 2017 we absolutely stomped the Texans. So, our record in Christmas is pretty good, but I just can't confidently say win with this team. But I do think you make a lot of good points, and obviously I don't even know, but I'm hoping for a win. But we'll see.
I think they're going to win, and I think the Ravens are also going to win, which means that's going to make that very last week very important. And again, it's kind of going back to what I said previous to this week is I think the NFL, they need people to watch, because we aren't even watching the NFL today. It's Sunday. We're not even watching the NFL. I don't think we've ever recorded an episode on a Sunday because we want to watch football, but right now, obviously, we don't care. We don't care to watch any of these games.
Yeah, and it's honestly, message to the NFL, it's getting tired. The same team's winning every single year. I'm done with it. Let's get back to parity. It used to be like that where, I guess there's always a team of the decade or whatever, but man, it wasn't the same team in every single Super Bowl on both sides. It's always the Niners and the Chiefs. It's the Niners won't be in there, but it's just, I'm tired of same thing happening every year, always a dominant team versus nobody else, so who knows? If you're right, that'd be great. So we'll see.
We'll see. The Steelers and the Chiefs on Christmas Day, just a couple of days from now. Hopefully everybody enjoys their Merry Christmas. I'm going to have I'm back home. I'm home with my family here in North Carolina. That's why I couldn't watch the game with you yesterday, but I'm going to enjoy my time here back home with some family, and it'll be a good time, and hopefully you enjoy your time with family as well. Is your sister coming back, or?
Yeah, she actually, I forgot to tell you this. She says hi. She got home last night.
Oh, very good.
So she's back, and my fiance comes into town late tonight, so we'll be together. So
awesome.
Yeah, it should be a great Christmas. A message to all the Steelers fans. I'm talking to myself as much as everybody else, but don't let this ruin Christmas Day. There's so many other great things. You just be able to turn it off if we lose.
Yes, 100%. There's a lot more important things than Steelers football, especially when it comes to Christmas. So enjoy your Christmas. Like David said, don't let it ruin your day. There's plenty of other things that you can do and you can be happy about, be joyful about, especially. A lot of things to celebrate, and spend some time with people you love, and that's a good way to go about it. So that's what both of us will do. We'll enjoy it. We'll enjoy a Steelers game. We'll see what happens, but hey, it's Christmas, and we'll have one more week after that, and Boardman Black and Gold will be back after that. So rest assured, we'll be back. As always, Boardman Black and Gold is sponsored by Zecca Enterprises, crafting furniture solutions in northwestern Pennsylvania. Call 910-777-3871 to learn how they can turn your furniture problems into furniture solutions. This parity, and now we have the difference between the two of us. I'm trying to go on my 4-game winning streak. David predicting a loss, me predicting a win somehow. I don't know how it's going to happen. Honestly, I'm really not confident at all, but I had to shake things up a little bit, so that's what I said. But thanks for listening, as always, to the Boardman Black and Gold podcast. David, you have anything else?
I think I'm all good. Hope everybody has a Merry Christmas, and we walk away with even merrier Christmas with a win.
Yes, hopefully it's after a Here We Go Steelers win. Thanks for listening, as always, and we will see you very shortly after this short week. Thanks for listening to Boardman Black and Gold. Zane and David, we'll see you next time.